Now you can't give up. And some people think that they've done it on their own, but they're confused. And the reason they're confused is because God already spoke. But some of them they still be wanting more proof or think they need more proof. Because sometimes we only recognize God's voice when things make sense. But Psalm 29 gently reminds us that God doesn't need our permission or understanding to move. The voice of the Lord is powerful, and the voice of the Lord is majesty. Psalm 29:4. And the voice of the Lord breaks cedars, splits fire, and shakes the wilderness. And yet he talks to us so patiently and personally. And if we're honest, there are moments we don't always recognize his voice right away. So we'll process what we feel. We'll try to talk to people and we'll try to figure things out on our own. And sometimes we're just learning how to recognize when it's him. Sometimes. And not because he isn't speaking, but because his voice often calls us into surrender. And surrender is something we grow into over time. Because his voice doesn't just comfort us, it also gently corrects us. And it draws us closer, not pushes us away. And here's something beautiful that I mentioned in part 2. In the beginning, in Genesis 1:3, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. But the sun wasn't created until later. I had to repeat this again because it's so beautiful. And that means God brought light into existence before the source we're used to seeing ever existed. So even then, God was showing us that he doesn't need what we think is necessary to do what only he can do. And maybe that's where some of us are right now, trying to understand how things will work and trying to see the how and trying to find the sun. We just looking around. We got on shades and everything, trying to find the sun. While God is still quietly speaking, light, light. And even when we don't fully understand, he's still moving. He's still moving. And that's what Psalms 29 shows. That his voice carry power. Even when we're still learning how to trust him. And the same voice that can shake everything around you is the same voice trying to reach you. And then you go to Psalms 30. And it shifts ever so gently. Because now David he just isn't describing God's power. But he's sharing what it feels like to experience God personally. And he says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning." Psalms chapter 30, verse 5. And that doesn't dismiss the night. Because some nights feel long and some seasons feel heavy. And sometimes we find ourselves just trying to get through. And the night may be a week, a month, a year, years, decades. So sometimes we stay busy and sometimes we distract ourselves or even turn to things like alcohol, marijuana, or relationship that helps us cope for the moment. Or anything else that people use to cope. Not because we don't love God, but because we're hurting. And we trying to manage what we don't fully understand. But even there, God isn't turning away. He's not turning away. Because what we truly need isn't just relief, it's his presence. And because David said God turned his mourning into dancing, not all at once now, but in a way that shows God meets us where we are and walks us through. And David also shared something else honest. He said when everything was going well, he felt secure, like he couldn't be moved. And a lot of us have felt that way. We all have moments like that, if we being real. Moments where things feel steady and we don't realize how much we need God until something shifts. And sometimes God allows those shifts, not to hurt us, but to gently remind us where our strength comes from. And it comes from him. It comes from him. It don't come from the gym. It don't come from eating right or what we think eating right is. It don't come from nothing else but him. Because it's easier to lean on what we can see, the sun, instead of staying rooted in the one who spoke light. But the beautiful part is this. Even when things feel uncertain, God is still steady. And even when we don't have all the answers, he's still our source. And when it feels like God is quiet or distant, read Psalms 34, and it'll remind you of something so comforting. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart. That's verse 18. And that means God doesn't move away when we're broken, but he draws us closer, closer. And he's not waiting for perfection because he responds to honesty. And then David says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." Psalms 34:8. Not just hear about him, but experience him. And that's the invitation. Not pressure and not performance, but relationship. Because the same God whose voice shakes the wilderness is the same God who sits with you in it and listens to you and gently leads you out. That's what you do. So maybe the question isn't, do I understand everything? But instead, am I willing to trust the one who can speak light even before I see the source? Because God has never needed perfect conditions to be a perfect savior. Y'all got this. You got this. Your pain is nothing new to God. It's nothing new. All the answers are in the Bible. All the answers are in the Bible. It doesn't matter if you've read it all the way through. Read it again. Read some verses again, because I promise you something will pop out different every time. This is one book that never gets old. That's what our pastor said, and he's right. You got this. Does not matter how long the storm is. We always looking at the storm. If you look at the storm, of course that's going to bring fear, but look to the one who put that storm there. That's the same God who's going to help you walk through that storm. So don't worry about the winds. Don't worry about the waves. Don't worry about anything. You keep your mind stayed on him and you will make it through that storm.